What's up, Shred Sexies? Welcome back. Death to the Fingers, back from my little vacation. I was just tired. You know, old man stuff. Whatever, eat me. You've got lots of material to work on. So we're ripping into these triads. Now, obviously, I'm kind of doing it more at my level because this is what you're shooting for, or how you should be trying to organize your practice sessions is more creatively, number one, where it comes out sounding like a solidly formed piece of music. When I was practicing classical music on the classical guitar, basically I realized that every one of these little sort of exercises was arranged around a song. And that's when it kind of went click. It's like if you kind of arrange these ideas musically, you sound more musical. Wow, shocker, I know. So that's why you should really be trying to organize your information as much as you can, essentially to sort of like, I need to create some tension and release. I need to use some scales to connect chord forms together and all that good stuff. Now, getting to the triads, listen, there's a million lessons on here, obviously, about the cage system and triads and all the rest of that stuff. I'm just using the cage system per se, and I'm doing 3 or 4 basic inversions of this idea of caged, right? So one of them being, of course, is just sort of going through the inversions of the caged arpeggios. Now, if you're going to play these chords, play them as arpeggios. I promise you, you'll be doing yourself a massive favor. Do not question it. Just do it. Play them as arpeggios. And then later on, when you're like super amazing, you can start messing with the chord inversions and whatnot, and you'll be like, okay, I understand now. Those things will be so incredibly burned in. And trust me, you want to create movement with your triads, so you need to have extra fingers available to hit upper extensions like the really classy masters do. Mateus Asado comes into mind. He's awesome at it. That's what you want to be able to do. Notice it's a combination of chords and lead material together, so practicing the arpeggios effectively, kills those two birds with one stone. So, you can do them as chords as well, but honestly, the lion's share should be arpeggios because it's just way more of a workout, and you actually see and hear them physically connect together in the sort of like, individual elements of the aggregate, which is more important than just sort of running through like this mindless exercise of memorizing a pattern. You're like, okay, this one leads to that one, leads to this one. You're like, oh, they stack on top of each other? What? And all of a sudden breakthroughs galore happen. So that's number one. Of course, I do another variant where I play the arpeggio section and then I layer a scale over top of it directly. So if I'm doing the C type, I know that happens at the Phrygian position, so I can use Phrygian 3 notes per string, or I can jump up immediately into Lydian there, and so on and so forth. So I actually anchor my position based around the chord, and then I play the associated scales closest to it. Now remember, that chord in and of itself can play, I'm really struggling here with the words. I guess my vacation was a little too good. Anyways, you can be moving that chord around to 3 different positions, right? The 1, the 4, and the 5 position. So obviously you're starting to see the possibilities multiply. Just saying. And after you get that far, of course, you're kicking it up a notch. You're starting to use these triads in diatonic sequences. You see me do it with E major. A lot of the time I'm working in D major, of course, but E major in this instance. And it's very cool. I take a few liberties with the chords to try to get a little bit more experimental, but it is what it is. I do a simpler version where I just show you the skeleton, and that's the important thing. That skeleton is just based around this diatonic sequence of triads ascending up a major scale. Oh my God, shocker. Yes, you can do this with a minor scale or any of the modes. And of course, any other scale system too, the melodic minor, harmonic minor, and the whole 9 yards. So once, absorbed in this capacity, you can start to expand to other things. So that's always a good time. And last but not least, of course, is there's sort of like the free play element where I try to interject elements of musicality into the practice session. Again, I talked about it, but I want to stress it. Too many people skip over this part and then they wonder why their solos sound mechanical or wooden, because you're not really sort of practicing the music element. There's memorizing the positions based around caged, based around where that intersects with 3 notes per string or the classical method. But the point being here is you're taking two bodies of information and merging it into one sort of like cohesive library, but it can be broken down into various subjects. In this case, you might be like, I want to base my lick around the cage system here. So you do like this little chordy thing, and then you're like, I want to finish it off with a flurry, so you know immediately the scale that you can use there or any scale that's adjacent to it. So that's kind of helpful because it gives you the opportunity and ability to just jam it out a few times and be like, there it is, and it's done. This is fun. It's musical. You know what I mean? It's quick. It's you're in, you're out. You're not struggling anymore. And that's the last point I want to make before just wrapping up the yip yap here and getting into, you know, all of the playing and whatnot is all I'm doing more so than what you're doing is confidence. I know these shapes. I know these chord positions. I know these arpeggio sequences like the back of my hand now because I've practiced them a million times and I still do practice them all the time, of course. That's part of it. But notice I keep the flame of creativity alive by sort of, you know, expanding my horizons and not making it a brutal practice regime, and instead try to interject some musicality. And that's really the biggest point. But secondarily to that is this idea that as a player to really develop musically and whatnot, to get to the next level, to really sort of like attain musical awareness, what I call musical awareness, where you're not actually chained down anymore by, you know, having to play other people's music or canned licks and manufactured riffs and all the rest of it. You know what I mean? Like the classic tried and true stuff, to sort of like break away from that finally and start to find your own voice on the instrument. It's crucial to understand that this basic music information, the music theory and all the rest of that stuff, it's not overly that complex and to be afraid of. You just kind of got to embrace it. And then once you start to employ it, like the steps of a major scale that we went through all those videos back a million years ago, it's now evolved up to the level where we're starting to use these triads and integrate all the systems together. There's now the triads using the chords and moving around diatonically idea tied in with the arpeggios based on the cage system, integrated with 3 notes per string and the minor pentatonic scale. And then bada bing, bada boom, you have like this insane arsenal of lead chops and rhythm chops to draw from that is suitable for basically 99% of all, you know, common music types that you're going to run into in the modern age, I guess you could say. And to what degree you actually practice this stuff will you know, sort of depend on how well you fare. Metal is pretty competitive, so you know how it is. You have to be pretty technical, but in almost any other sense, the thing here is that it's more about developing melody, developing creative ideas on the go that integrate with these two things. Start off by constraining yourself with the chord, and then basically move outward by attaching on scales and arpeggios in a sequence that's going to sound musical. Not just, oh, look, I'm locked into the metronome. Now all of a sudden there's these musical pauses and some vibrato and the idea that you're going to slide around, you know, sort of creating a nice intricate melody. So what? You made a mistake. Keep going. That's just it. I make a mistake in a crucial part, and I'm just like, keep going. It sounds great. The mistake sucks, whatever, but the rest of it sounds awesome. So that's just, you know, something you have to get over, and something like that might derail a normal person, but you got to practice and have discipline of mind, and that's just it. It comes from confidence, being able to move around on the fretboard. That comes from knowing where you are. I know where the C chord is, the C-type chord from Cage, where that falls in 3 notes per string, just like the E-type chord falls at the, where does that fall? First degree, right? So you're Ionian, right? The G-type's Ionian. The A-type, where does that come from? Oh, it's going to be attached on to the C-type, right? Because it's caged, obviously. So, and that's part of Mixolydian. And that's my point. Once you get to that level of awareness where you know where these chords fit in, now all of a sudden you have this incredibly powerful tool, because there's a lot of theory that goes into caged. that you can tap into on the internet to really expand your knowledge base and make it a deadly weapon. Do not overlook it. It's not just 5 chords. Believe you me. It's arpeggios, it's scales, it's chords, it's chord melodies. There's a ton of extra stuff you can do later on when you get more advanced. It's absolutely awesome. And develop your creativity, please. Don't be a machine. Try to say something, even if you're just practicing it. I hope this video helps. And I don't sound too preachy. Whatever. I love you guys. We'll see you in the next one.